Have you ever wondered how to get your students to write interesting and entertaining stories that'll impress even the blandest of people? Well, I have a solution for you, and it is this presentation, because I already gave an example of what creating the lead is. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get started. So, creating the lead. The lead is the introduction to a topic a writer is presenting to a given audience. With this, the author has to keep in mind who the audience is. So with my approach, I did more of like almost like a car sale kind of person, or any type of advertisement you've seen on TV, anything like that. So we see these everywhere, and it's just a good way to keep attention on what you're talking about. So first things first, if the lead is not strong, the reader will lose interest very quickly. It's really hard to read a piece or a novel, watch a movie, any type of media, view any type of media that doesn't have a strong lead because you don't have any connection starting with the story. And you want that established from the very beginning. If you don't have it, like it says, you'll lose interest very quickly. Students can actually practice creating the lead, and that's something that can help them with writing and reading and being able to have conversations with their peers, which is also super important in the classroom. So good lead is when you don't have to tell the story all at once, or you don't tell the story all at once. Whereas bad lead is a simple comment that can end a story and doesn't create further interest in the topic. So with this, I have some examples of boring lead versus good lead. So boring lead would be, I broke a window playing baseball. So there's not much more that you want to know. I mean, you broke a window. Okay, which window did you break? And then, but you're not super invested in the story already. Whereas good lead, an example would be whack. The sound of the bat hitting the baseball echoed through the neighborhood, followed by a sound I will never forget. Smash! I turned ghost white as I turned to see the damage I'd done. And immediately, you want to keep reading because the imagery, because of the emotion, because of, all sorts of things. Whereas, like I said, broke a window playing baseball doesn't give much lead in. And I see this a lot in normal conversation between people. We'll use the boring lead if you're not a very good storyteller. It's just the boring lead. That's just what happens. That's what you know how to do. Whereas the good lead is somebody that just tells the most amazing stories and you just want to keep listening to them. And you're constantly going to them asking for more. Another example of boring lead would be, I rode my bike to school in the rain. Okay, how was it, I guess? You really don't have much that there's not much to say about that. Whereas the rain pelted against my face, blurring my vision as I pumped my legs faster in attempts to escape the horrid rainstorm. It gives a little more imagery, and it just makes the reader want to keep reading because you set up this idea that you're going to continue this throughout the rest of your story. I know for me, they had the easy read books. And it was just like little paper booklets that they made us in the transition from kindergarten to first grade. And they're all the boring lead because that's the language that you know. That's how much information that you know. Whereas as you continue in your education, you can start creating good lead and it becomes entertaining to the reader, to the writer. It just overall just creates this emotion behind what you're doing. So this is actually from the textbook. So on the left, we have the writing topics. So this is an example of something you can give your students in class. You can mix and match the types of lead to the writing topics. So for writing topics, we see stuff like campaign commercial for political candidate, a classified ad for a used car, a blog entry about a favorite book, the opening line for a trailer of a new movie. And I'm sure kids will go crazy over that. An advertising headline for a restaurant, anything that you can have a writing topic about. So it can be directly related to your subject. It can be loosely related to your subject. It really doesn't matter. It just gives the opportunity for these students to have this conversation through writing and explain what they know and create lead in a way that makes you, since you're going to be reading all of these essays, writing assignments, anything that you're giving your students, it creates it in a way that helps you not be bored when you're trying to read these things. And helps your students become general good storytellers. So over on the right, we have types of lead with analogy or comparison, which we see a lot in the scriptures, just comparing anecdotes or case study, having a short story to begin with. There's an example in the textbook that it gave about animals. And it starts off with talking about Hawaii and like how their favorite animals in Hawaii, and then makes a huge shift with, but that doesn't have anything to do with me saving the polar bears or something like that. And because of the shift that it makes, it's already there. It gets your attention. You can make a direct address like I did with the you that I used throughout my example that I gave at the very, very beginning. You can use one-word phrases, controversial statements, anything like that. So an example that I wanted to talk about really fast is one that we know from Disney in the movie Aladdin, when it's the merchant and he's trying to sell these things, and he presents the lamp. And he starts telling the story of the lamp with, it's no ordinary tale, and then continues on. Doesn't just give, like, there's a genie in this lamp, it's super cool, because you're not as interested. So that's just some examples for creating lead. I hope that helps in any writing that you need to do in the future with creating lead and creating a true introduction. That'll help. And have a fantastic day.